Subscribe now for daily HFY sci-fi stories. You won't want to miss what comes next.
The dust on Kharnak tasted like regret. Elias Thorne spat a gritty mouthful into the recycler of his maintenance suit, the recycled air tasting faintly of ozone and decay. For 3 standard rotations, he'd been the only soul on this rock, a graveyard of an empire that had built pyramids taller than mountains and then vanished without a trace. His job was simple: catalog, clean, and prepare the central archive for the academic teams scheduled to arrive in a cycle. His title was senior janitor, but in the quiet of the endless, rust-colored dunes, he felt more like a gravedigger. The archive was a colossal ziggurat of black stone, its surface carved with glyphs that pulsed with a faint, internal light, like dying stars. Elias ran a gloved hand over one, the vibration humming through his bones. The glyphs weren't just writing. They were music, a silent symphony of a civilization that had mastered the very fabric of reality. And now, they were dust. Elias's partner, Kale, had hated this place. "Feels like they're watching us, Eli," he'd said, his voice tight. "These stones, they remember." Elias had laughed, told him to stop reading cheap horror novels. Now, alone in the archive's antechamber, with the low thrum of the stones vibrating the floor beneath his boots, he understood. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy with the weight of what had been. He'd found a small alcove off the main hall, a place untouched by time or scavengers. Inside, a single pedestal held a device made of interlocking rings of obsidian and gold, humming with a soft, golden light. It was a key, or a lock, or something else entirely. The academic teams would be ecstatic. Elias just wanted to go home. He checked the chrono on his wrist. 6 hours until the dropship arrived. Plenty of time to finish his sweep. The archive's main chamber was a cathedral of forgotten knowledge. Holographic displays flickered in and out of existence, showing star charts of galaxies long dead, equations that made his head ache, and images of beings with too many limbs and eyes of liquid gold. Elias ignored them. His job was to maintain the physical structure, not to decipher the ghosts of a dead race. He polished a corroded panel with a solvent cloth, the black dust of Kharnak clinging to his suit like a shroud. The stones around him seemed to lean in, as if waiting. For what, he didn't know. The first sign of trouble wasn't a sound, but a shift in the air. The low thrum of the stones faltered, replaced by a high-pitched whine that set Elias's teeth on edge. The golden light of the device in the alcove flickered, then died. The holographic displays in the main chamber sputtered and vanished, plunging the space into an oppressive darkness. Elias's suit lights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows. "System diagnostic," he muttered, tapping his wrist comm. "Static. Kharnak control, this is Thorne. Do you copy?" Only silence. The air grew colder, the dust motes in the beam of his suit light freezing in midair. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. He moved toward the alcove, his boots crunching on the stone floor. The device was dark, inert. As he reached for it, the glyphs on the pedestal flared to life, a violent red. A wave of energy washed over him, not painful, but invasive. It was like someone had poured ice water into his skull, sifting through his memories, his fears, his hopes. He saw his daughter's face, her laughter, the day she'd left for the academy. He saw Kale's funeral, a small, quiet affair on a verdant world that felt like a lifetime ago. He saw the endless, empty corridors of space stations, the loneliness that came with being a janitor in a universe that didn't care. The glyphs pulsed faster, the red light bleeding into the stone, crawling up the walls like veins. "Stop it," Elias gasped, stumbling back. The energy receded, but the damage was done. The glyphs weren't just recording history, they were broadcasting it. A signal, a scream across the void. And something had heard it. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, figures began to coalesce. They weren't solid, but made of shifting light and static, like corrupted data given form. They had no faces, only fields of chaotic noise where their features should be. They moved with an unnatural grace, their forms flickering in and out of existence. Elias's suit comm crackled to life, not with a voice, but with a sound, a melody that was both beautiful and terrifying, a song of a billion dying stars. The entities didn't attack. They simply watched. Elias backed away, his heart hammering against his ribs. The melody from his calm grew louder, filling the chamber, a counterpoint to the oppressive silence. It was a language, he realized. A language of pure information. The glyphs on the walls were singing back. The red light pulsed in time with the music, a frantic, discordant rhythm. Elias felt a pull, not physical, but mental. The archive was trying to communicate, but it was broken, its message a scream of agony. The entities were the echo of that scream, made manifest. They were the ghosts of the Kharnak, trapped in a loop of their own demise. One of the entities drifted closer, its form resolving into something vaguely humanoid, but with limbs that branched like fractals and eyes that were swirling galaxies. It extended a hand, not toward Elias, but toward the device on the pedestal. The golden light flickered back to life, dim and weak. The entity touched it, and the melody shifted, becoming softer, sadder. A flood of images and sensations poured into Elias's mind. A civilization at its peak, building wonders that defied physics, then a creeping silence, a slow decay that had consumed them from within. They hadn't been killed, they had been unmade. Their reality had been rewritten, layer by layer, until nothing was left but dust and song. Elias understood. The device wasn't a key or a lock. It was a tombstone, a beacon, and he had just activated it. The entities weren't hostile, they were lonely. They were the last remnants of a people who had been erased from existence. And now, they were reaching out, trying to find anyone, anything, to share their pain with. The academic teams would never understand. They'd see weapons, technology, power. Elias only saw grief. He looked from the grieving entities to the humming device, an idea forming in his mind, fragile and desperate. He couldn't turn it off. It was the only thing keeping them tethered to this reality. But he couldn't leave it on, either. The signal was a beacon for something else. Something that had erased the Kharnak. And it was coming. The ground trembled. Not from an earthquake, but from something far older, far hungrier. The red light of the glyphs intensified, bathing the chamber in a hellish glow. The entities recoiled, their forms flickering wildly, the beautiful melody turning into a screech of static. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and ravenous. From the ceiling, shadows dripped like oil, coalescing into shapes that defied description. They were made of absence, of holes in the universe stitched together with darkness. The Shedders, that's what the Kharnak had called them, according to the flood of images in Elias's mind. They were the erasers, the cosmic janitors who cleaned up failed realities. And they had just received an invitation. One of the Shedders detached from the ceiling, drifting down like a falling star. It was a sphere of pure void, surrounded by a corona of crackling energy. It didn't have eyes, but Elias felt its gaze, a cold, analytical assessment. It saw the entities, the archive, the device. And it saw Elias. A speck of organic matter, irrelevant. The Shedder extended a tendril of darkness, not toward Elias, but toward the device on the pedestal. The golden light flared, a last desperate plea. The entities surged forward, their forms blurring as they threw themselves between the Shedder and the device. The Shedder paused, its form rippling with curiosity. It had not expected resistance. Not from ghosts. Elias's mind raced. The academic teams were due in hours. The Shedders would be here long before then. He had to do something. The device was the source of the signal, the anchor for the entities. If he could amplify it, maybe he could create a distraction, a beacon powerful enough to draw the Shedders' attention away from the archive. But how? The device was alien, its technology beyond human comprehension. He looked around the chamber, his eyes landing on a maintenance panel he'd been working on earlier. It was fried, the circuits fused by the energy surge. A dead end. Unless. He remembered the solvent he'd used, a corrosive compound designed to break down alien alloys. It was volatile, unstable. Maybe, just maybe, he could use it to create a feedback loop. A desperate, insane plan. But it was the only one he had. Elias moved with a purpose he hadn't felt in years. The Shedder's tendril inched closer, the entities swarming around it like moths to a flame, their song a desperate counter-melody to the void silence. Elias ignored them, focusing on the maintenance panel. He pried it open with a crowbar, the metal groaning in protest. Inside, a tangle of black wires and crystalline components. He pulled out a canister of the solvent, its contents glowing with a faint, toxic green. He'd been warned never to mix it with anything, especially not active energy sources. But the device was active, humming with the golden light. It was a risk, a huge risk. He had one chance. He poured the solvent onto the exposed wires. The green liquid sizzled, eating through the metal, releasing a cloud of acrid smoke. The shedder's attention shifted, its form turning toward the disturbance. The entities took the opportunity, pushing the tendril back. Elias didn't wait. He grabbed a length of conduit, frayed and exposed, and jammed it into the panel, bridging two of the main power conduits. A spark, then a shower of blue electricity. The device on the pedestal pulsed, the golden light intensifying. The melody from the comm grew louder, clearer, a full-bodied symphony now. The shedder recoiled, its void-like form flickering. The signal was too strong, too pure. It was a symphony of creation, not decay. The shedder, a creature of entropy, found it offensive. The feedback loop was working, but it was unstable. The conduit began to glow, melting. Elias had seconds. He looked at the device, then at the shedder. The shedder was focused on the symphony, the entities, the energy discharge. It wasn't paying attention to him. Elias made his choice. He lunged forward, grabbing the device from the pedestal. It was hot, searing his gloves. He didn't let go. He stumbled back, away from the panel, away from the shedder. The conduit exploded in a shower of sparks and molten metal. The chamber went dark, plunged into absolute silence. The shedder let out a sound, not a screech, but a low, disappointed hum. The entities flickered, their forms dissolving into nothing. The archive was quiet again. Too quiet.